Here are the Fantasy Follows top 5 waiver wire players to target for week 4 of fantasy football. The top waiver wire ad this week is Justin Jefferson, rookie wide receiver for the Minnesota Vikings. Jefferson currently rostered in 32% of leagues. Now, this is a player who I had looked to target in drafts at the start of the year until the word out of Minnesota was that he was not going to crack the likes of B.C. Johnson to a number 2 receiver there to their top receiver, Adam Thielen. Well, in game 3 last week, 175 yards, 7 catches and a touchdown, he saw 9 targets. In the first 2 weeks, he saw 3 targets in each of them. So clearly, they went to him more in their offense in week 3. Now, Jefferson represents a possible number 2 option there, replacing Stephon Diggs, who they lost in the offseason. And Jefferson spoke to the media after his big game in week 3.
Hey, Justin, I know that you've always believed in yourself and what you're capable of doing, but this, just to actually put this on film here now and really show everyone at the NFL level, does it kind of give you confidence and assuredness going forward that if this offense has to score a lot of points, you can be a big part of making that happen?
100%. Just being able to go out there and make those big plays for the team, putting points on the board and setting this team up for success. That's all that really matters. And it boosted my confidence a lot. Just coming out here, having a game like that on a higher level. It's just more to come. We just got to keep working.
Now, Jefferson is truly deserving of that top spot on this list this week, simply due to the fact that if he continues to grow in that offense, he represents a player that you can continue to use throughout the season and play based on matchups. Now, his next 4 games, he has Houston, Seattle, Arizona, and then a bye. This week playing Houston, allowing the 20th most fantasy points to the wide receiver position, so a little bit in the bottom half. But like I said, Jefferson is a player that will continue to show you value throughout the year if he continues to grow in that offense. The rest of the top 5, number 2, Carlos Hyde, running back for the Seattle Seahawks, currently rostered in 19% of leagues. Now, Hyde's value relies strictly on Chris Carson's status. If Carson is not able to go for this week or even possibly next, then you're talking about a player who can slide right in that number 1 running back spot. The next 4 games for Seattle, Miami, Minnesota, then they have the bye, then Arizona. That's a pretty nice run matchup-wise. Miami giving the 14th most fantasy points to the running back spot, and Minnesota the 7th. So the next 2 games, if you figure Hyde has the chance to play in 2 games, gives him some real value on the waiver wire this week. Number 3 is Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver for the 49ers, currently rostered in 29% of leagues. Now, Ayuk, the rookie, playing in his 2nd game last week, saw 8 targets, 5 catches for 70 yards, another 31 rush yards, 21.1 fantasy points on the day. Ayuk, it'll be tough to say what's going to happen moving forward because as George Kittle and even Deebo Samuel come back into the roster with the banged-up 49ers, Ayuk's usage will probably go down a little bit, but he's a rookie that continues to develop, so certainly he could flourish. The next 4 games for Ayuk, Philadelphia and Miami are the next 2. Philly, the 10th most fantasy points to wide receivers, and Miami, the 12th. And then after that, the Rams and New England, 16th and 7th, respectively. So Brandon has a nice run ahead of him. The number 4 player is a player we talked about last week, and that's Dalton Schultz, tight end for the Dallas Cowboys. He is currently rostered in 32% of all leagues. Now, over the last 2 games, Schultz has seen 16 targets. And there certainly are a lot of players to throw to in that Dallas offense. However, we've seen them need to throw the ball a lot in the last several weeks. So Schultz probably will still have some value in this offense. He's got a great matchup this week playing the Cleveland Browns. They have allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to the tight end spot. Following that is the Giants, Arizona, and Washington. The Giants are down at 26, but Arizona 16, Washington 6. So Schultz could return some value over his next stretch. And number 5, Nick Foles, quarterback for the Chicago Bears and now starting quarterback. He's currently rostered in 3% of all leagues. Now, Bears coach Matt Nagy said that he is not only the starter this week, but beyond also. So for those of you possibly playing in a super flex league, a possible second quarterback, hard to say if Foles is looking at streaming value as a starter right now. He's got a tough run coming up playing the Colts this week. They have allowed the fewest points to the quarterback position, followed by Tampa Bay, the 5th fewest, and then Carolina, the 3rd fewest. And then a bit of a reprieve, the Rams, they're allowing the 11th most fantasy points to the quarterback spot. So a tough run for Foles, but someone to keep an eye on. A few bonus players to target on this week's waiver wire, starting in San Francisco with Jeff Wilson. Now, it was Wilson and Jerick McKinnon in the backfield last week for the banged-up 49ers, with Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman out. Now, Wilson's value is going to remain tied to how long those two players are on the sidelines. Last week, he saw 15 touches, including 3 of them through the air, where he found 1 touchdown. 21.90 fantasy points. Now, the next 4 games for San Francisco: Philadelphia, Miami, the Rams, and New England. None of those stellar matchups for the running back spot. Philadelphia 23rd, Miami 14th, Rams 15th, New England 18th. You really don't look for Wilson too far in advance because once those other players are back, his value is going to diminish. But if you're looking for a player in the short term, he's in the mix. Mo Alley-Cox, tight end for the Indianapolis Colts, has shown some value. He's currently rostered in 10% of all leagues. Now, he's totaled 30.10 fantasy points over the last 2 weeks. And there was some concern as to whether or not he would lose some value with Jack Doyle coming back into the lineup. But last week, 34 snaps from Mo Alley-Cox, 33 for Doyle. So continued usage, and Phillip Rivers, he certainly likes to throw to the tight end spot. The next 4 games for the Colts: Chicago, Cleveland, Cincinnati, and then the bye. That's a decent run. Chicago 18th, Cleveland the 3rd most fantasy points to the tight end position, and Cincinnati 17th. Those are 3 games where I think Mo Alley-Cox could remain in the mix there. A couple of rookie receivers on the bonus list here. Chase Claypool for the Pittsburgh Steelers, currently rostered in 14% of all leagues. Now, his targets have not been that great, but Deontay Johnson possibly out in concussion protocol, that makes a difference. Now, Claypool did have a nice game in week 2 with 17.8 fantasy points, so he has shown he can do it. The next 4 games for Pittsburgh, this is a pretty nice run. Tennessee, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Baltimore. Tennessee allowing the 14th most fantasy points to the wide receiver spot. The Eagles 10th, Cleveland 6th, and Baltimore just in the bottom half at 17. So a nice little run for Claypool, the rookie. And Gabriel Davis for the Buffalo Bills, kind of a deep sleeper here, only rostered in 1% of all leagues. Now, Davis came in and played a little bit more when John Brown was hurt last week, totaling 81 yards. So if Brown continues to be out, Davis could have some value as a secondary receiver while Stephon Diggs takes up the bulk of the coverage. The next 4 games for the Bills: Las Vegas, Tennessee, Kansas City, and the Jets. Not a lot of great matchups there. Las Vegas 28th, Tennessee 14th, Kansas City the fewest points to the wide receiver position, and the Jets 23rd. But nonetheless, Davis not rostered in many leagues. You might not have to spend a waiver wire claim to get him. So possibly someone to keep an eye on and see if he has some value on your team later on. And we want to remind you about the TFF Live Sunday pregame show, streaming live here on our YouTube channel every Sunday at 12 noon Eastern, taking you right up to game time. We're there for your fantasy questions, all the information you need to get ready for your matchups each week. And here's where you can find us, the Fantasy Follow, right here on YouTube. Please subscribe now. We are a brand new channel, and we have a goal of 100 subscribers by week 7, so please help us reach our goal. Check us out on Twitter at the Fantasy Follow, fantasy spelled FNTSY. And don't forget, you can submit your lineup questions during the week using the hashtag AskTFFLive, and you can get those questions answered on the air on Sunday. On Facebook /The Fantasy Follow and our website, thefantasyfollow.com.